Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Mondays with Mooch. Yesterday, I did an episode called "Improve Your Bylaws, Improve Your Members," and it was with my buddy Wild on Twos, and it was over on his YouTube channel. It was a live episode, so I recorded it, and we're gonna drop it here on my channel today. So, drop any questions you got in the comments, any sort of feedback you've got, hit me up, or you can email me. It's themooch618@gmail.com. If you've got any bylaw related questions, club related questions, hit me up, and we'll address it. I also always want to give a shout out to my sponsors, Espinosa's Leather, Roadhouse and Black Diamond Harley Davidson, and DB Gear. So check out my sponsors, hit them up. I'm able to do this because of them, so I appreciate you guys. Make sure you click the like button and make sure you subscribe and leave some comments. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yo, ¿cómo están? It's Wild Down Twos, and thank you for coming to our channel. This is Mooch live with me. We had a lot of technical difficulties. Partially both our faults. We kind of waited a little last minute, and he came rushing in here probably, and then like everything happens, nothing works when we try to work on here. And you can hear me good now.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
awesome.
good.
Hope you guys doing good. Let me get just a section here going. All right, perfect. Yeah, no, I just wanted I wanted to kind of bring up in the beginning. I know you had that big trip, and a lot of people. I know you posted it on your channel. I was trying to see if you want to talk a little bit about that. That looked like a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, man, it was incredible. So I was going back home for my sister's high school graduation, and with work and everything, I kind of waited too long for airfare, and prices got up so high that I started thinking, I might as well just ride. And it kind of worked out in the fact that I had enough time off. So I just said, you know what, I don't know when I'm gonna have this chance again. So I took 2 weeks off of work, pretty last minute, and man, just packed up the bike and went. And I didn't even have much of a plan, which was rad. I had a date I needed to be there by, but that was about as much planning as I did, really.
Well, I mean, that's the best riding when you just don't have a plan and you just kind of go. When you have a plan, you stress out too much. That's fine.
I think so too. And man, I'm so used to like riding with people and like making sure everyone else is happy and planning stops for everyone's different types of bikes and all those different things. And so, man, on this trip, I didn't check my email. I didn't check my bank account. I didn't have to see if everyone else was I just did like the days I wanted to ride for a long time. I rode for a long time. The days that like my neck started to hurt and I got sore and then I stopped. So doing it like on my own program at my own pace, I think was a game changer too. Cause that just made it so much more enjoyable.
Oh, I know. I saw all your pictures of all the states you were going through. I mean, it looks funny. I think it was like, how many states did you go through?
I think it was 11. I ended up doing 11 or
I was
12.
gonna say it was like close to 12 or something. It just looked pretty funny, like the little picture that you're posting. I was like, man, that was pretty fun. That looked like a good ride. I mean, I do that next year. I told meet up, and then I go, this might drive you a hell of a ride. So
Yeah,
we got to figure out something. Probably do a ride and meet up in the middle somewhere.
that would be rad. I want to do that 1K in a day challenge. But I don't know if I necessarily want to do like 1,000 miles and then stay somewhere and come back. I think I'd almost do like, 500, 600, then turn around and come straight back so that I'm back home after the 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
But we could probably do something like that. Like, cause I think we're probably right around there, 500, 600 miles.
Really? Shit. I think getting out of Texas, that's 600 miles.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how deep you are. When I was looking at it from here to the Gulf Coast is about 550 for me. So it's a little different direction, but still south. So it's probably something similar.
How's my sound there, guys? The phone said my sound was cutting in and out. Let me see. Just double checking my audio here. Yeah, it cut out here quick. Hold on a second. This is what I hate about technology.
I can't figure this stuff out. I got a nice studio mic and I don't even have it plugged in because I couldn't figure it out.
No, it's my mic keeps cutting out with regards. I got to talk loud. I think this is my computer mic that I'm talking through now. This is not kicking in. Either or, but I was going to say that the title of this show is "Improve Your Bylaws, Improve Your Members." And I know Mooch was going to do a video by himself, but he didn't want to get too bored talking to the camera, so I told him I'll jump on here. And so, what made you think about this, like improving your bylaws? Because I always thought about that myself. So there's a lot of clubs that basically stay with the same bylaws just because that's what it's always been, and they don't go
Right.
reach out, So, what made you? What's your history with that?
Yeah, so the club I was in has a constitution, but then each chapter is allowed to have their own bylaws as long as it doesn't conflict with the constitution. And then I spent about 10 years in national leadership overseeing different regions. So I was actually lucky enough to be in a spot where I could help develop newer bylaws or try and get regions to all be on the same page. And I don't know if it was people enjoyed it or not, but it was often referred to as the Mooch program. And essentially what it was is, like you were saying, a lot of it was tradition, like the old school bylaws from, like Pico, Dago, some of the old school chapters that had a lot of respect. And then some of it was just more evolution. Some of it came from some of the guys that were in the military and some of their security stuff, some of stuff, just kind of some street type of stuff. And, it's experiences we've all had. We took those and kind of shaped our bylaws around that. So it was a little more evolved, and that's something when we start really getting into it, you can you'll see kind of some of the stuff I brought up that I think's a little different than clubs used to do in the past. But on the flip side, I always felt like there was good reasons for it. It was one of those things where everyone voted on and agreed to it, so it wasn't like, when I say the Mooch program, it wasn't like coming in there as a dictator, but it was stuff that I offered up that ended up working out well, and it ended up translating to a lot of different regions.
I mean, how many, when you brought it up, well, I can hear myself a little better now.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
I can hear myself on your side, I think. But I was going to say, how many people actually jumped on there? Did it take some people in the beginning, like this, like you said, is like just a Mooch program, or people actually kind of engulfed it and actually liked the idea, or were they kind of worried about any backlash?
No, I think it went well because kind of how we do it is we get all the chapter P's together, sometimes even the chapters, and we would discuss it and vote on it. So then everyone's kind of invested in it, right? So it's not just like I'm coming in here saying this is it. We would discuss pros and cons. And so if we decided, hey, the certain bylaw is going to go in there, then you have some investment, you're tied into it. So it's easier to like back it up, support it, and kind of see it through than if someone just comes in here and says, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, because I do see, and I hate to say a lot of clubs. When I mean clubs, I mean chapters, right? Because the whole nations of clubs is like so many chapters. But there's chapters that I've seen that they fall into this old ways, and that's what they do, the same thing over and over. It's like Groundhog's Day. Members get bored. Members in the beginning, they get patchitis in the beginning, and they do all they can do, but then everybody starts dying off. They burn both ends of the candles. Then it's like a video I made is about, it's like a skeleton crew of a chapter. They're just going through the motions just to keep that patch on their back, and whatever they can do, that just keep that patch rather than just living their lives. What was like probably the main things that you think a chapter should do to make themselves better, improve their members?
Yeah, I mean, here's one. So, the club I came from, they were supposed to have meetings once a week, mandatory for everybody. And I think that's probably pretty common. But what I saw over the years was if we didn't have something to talk about, like we weren't planning a run or doing merch or whatever, but we were still forced to sit down once a week, you'd find something to talk about, right? And often that ended up being somebody was in trouble or something negative. I mean, because we're trying to find something to focus on, right? And so human nature wise, now we're nitpicking essentially. And I really saw a lot of drama was coming out of because we were forced to just sit down and talk about stuff. So one of the things we changed is we still get together once a week, but if we didn't have something to officially sit down about, then we might just all go for a ride once that week, or we might meet up and have dinner. So, I mean, the brotherhood aspect of getting together once a week was, to me, what was most important, and to the guys more so than sitting around the table and banging a gavel, because that's, I saw there was a lot of drama coming out of that when people just wanted to find something to talk about.
Right. That's like a forced, like you said, forced conversation, forced activities, forced some type of topic that probably leads into little drama that you shouldn't even get into.
Right.
Because I mean, I've seen that a lot. A lot of times it was like the meetings had no point. Instead, they should have just all got together, like you said, and go on a ride or something.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we'd meet up the clubhouse, say, is there anything, we'd sit down, do roll call, quick chapter treasury stuff. And then, hey, if there's nothing to talk about, cool, where do you guys want to go? Where are we going to go ride, And then we're still getting all that brotherhood time and spending time together. And we're actually out getting on bikes. I mean, there's just a lot more positives to it, in my opinion, than sitting around finding things to talk about.
Yeah, because I mean, for the MC life, I know a lot of guys, they stop doing fun runs and events, and it's more, they seem not to say mandatory, but just to show that they're out and about.
Right. I lost your audio again, broski.
You hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Oh, this damn mic is like giving crap. I just said like majority of clubs, and not majority of clubs, but a lot of the chapters I'm thinking about that I know, they just have the members that they don't last. I think they don't last because it's the same. Like I told you, same story. They go to the bar next door. They keep bar hopping. They don't ride more than like 20 miles
Right.
a week. And then anyone that has to do a fun run, it's just like maybe three brothers out of that chapter, instead of having a big chapter run or something just to go have fun.
Right.
What will be the number one thing that you think that will be probably priority for changes?
Well, so kind of what you're touching on there too is just that burnout aspect, right? If we're always doing the same thing all the time, that now instead of being, hey, I get to see the guys Friday night, it's, oh man, I got this. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's that mindset of your obligation. So if we're mixing it up, like, hey, we're going somewhere different. Hey, you know, we were hitting this bar or this neighborhood last weekend. Let this weekend or do something different, just to kind of keep, you know, some change going and kind of keep some excitement, so that people are motivated to participate. They want to come out and be involved. Versus, like you said, hey man, I've already been to that bar 100 times. There's nothing cool there. I'm over it. And then you know, we really start dealing with that burnout aspect of these guys, where it's like, hey, you know, this just isn't fun anymore. And you know, we all know that the club life isn't always fun, right? There's always gonna, I mean, the bad times is, to me, what made the good times the best, right? You got to go through them. But at the same time, we got to find that balance between, you know, family, work, and club, that it's still enjoyable, where it's not an extra burden, where the guy that does come out, say he's forced there because it's mandatory, if he's not enjoying himself, his attitude's going to spread to everybody else. Next thing you know, no one wants to be there, and now we're not having fun.
No, that's guaranteed, because you can sense the people that don't want to be there.
Right.
You can just sense it. I mean, you can just see them quiet. They seem like there's anything. They're like very irritable. And what do you think for a chapter? Let's say a brand new chapter that a lot of times I see them do everything they can to travel to every chapter, different states. Do you think they push a little too hard in the beginning, or do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, or is that a disaster for Burnout, rather than pacing themselves a little bit?
Right. I mean, that's a catch-22, because I do think it's great for new chapters to be out and visible and seen as much as possible, right? Especially on bikes, going, you know, making that name for themselves. But I would say that, yeah, you know, if, as leadership, you would set maybe a time limit, you know, hey, we're going to do this for this first year, and then kind of dial it back to like what's more reasonable, what's you know, what's more likely to actually work out. Because like we said, burnout's a big thing that people don't realize or don't think about, and especially when you're brand new to the patch and you're so gung-ho. But you know, if you're going to everything every weekend, and all of a sudden, you know, eventually things are going to start adding up, that you're not spending time at home or work or whatever. And you know, we all know that if your life outside of the club isn't going well, you're likely not going to be a good member in the club.
Yeah, I know. People keep saying about my mic sucks. I know. I'm going to try to put my mouth a little closer, but it's just overall. I switched out from this little guy to this big one. I should go back to this one, but I don't even know where the cable is because 6 ago. So, yeah, no. But one of the things that I see chapters do, like you said, is do that gun-ho, all out. Same thing as a prospect, right? Or a hang around. I tell a lot of guys, set your expectations the way who you really are and what you're going to do early on. I get as a hang around, you want to do everything as a prospect. But once you patch, and if you dial way back and you're not the same person, people are going to not, you know, they're not going to like that. And you got to keep a pace, because this is a marathon. This is not a sprint to see how fast you can get your patch. I think a lot, it's just like in jiu-jitsu, like, you know, a lot of guys work so hard, bust their ass, and they think the more they do, they should be getting these stripes in the next belt. It's up to the, you know, the higher up guy to know when he's ready for that belt. Same thing with the chapter and the patch. What will be another point that you think guys should do in regards of, I know about runs and stuff. What about family time, like all together, like cookouts, and like maybe switch every other week or something? A member switches and does a house party, just inviting everybody over.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you really want everyone to be bought into it, and we all really want to feel like brothers, and we do anything for each other, then family's got to be involved in some extent, right? The old lady's got to feel a part of it to some degree. And you know, don't get that twisted. I don't mean as far as the politics or club business, but when it comes to hanging out, they need to be involved to some extent, so that they also feel that they're a part of it. Because if your old man's gone all the time and you're feeling like you're being left alone, you're going to start having that resentment. There's going to be arguments and issues, and it's a power struggle at home. So you really got to figure out, like you said, whether it's, X amount of time a week, whether we do family barbecues. The club that I was in they would do a big family fun day once a year where we'd rent like big bouncy houses, and it was like a giant carnival. So everyone could bring their kids and stuff like that. So really including the family, I think to some degree is super beneficial as far as keeping the members happy and finding that good balance.
Yeah, because I see when something does happen, when the old ladies all know each other, like really kind of know each other, when the kids all play around with each other, play with each other and play ball, and something happens to one of the members, when people get together, it really does feel like a real family, not because it's mandatory or someone feels like they have to do it. Because one of the worst things I hate is when I see prospects, let's say a member goes down, but they're at the hospital, and people are visiting, but it seems like they're just going for brownie points.
Right.
The real caring and really understanding, I've seen members say, well, I'll wait till he gets out, or when people send a text, are you okay? Do they really mean it? Do the other old ladies really mean it, or they're going through the actions? And that's one of the big things. I mean, we love inviting people over to our house. If we can, I would do it every weekend if I could.
Right.
I think that's the best thing to do is and have an open door policy. I mean, I don't mind if people come by my house at any moment. They want to eat dinner with us, they can eat dinner with us.
Right.
It should be like that.
That's the real brotherhood aspect, right? And that's, when we talk about developing bylaws and leadership, a lot of that burden falls on leadership to make sure that we are leading by example and showing these types of things. Because, if we want something to really, these guys to really be bought in and, want to do things without being forced, want to go out and be active without, then they need to feel like they're a part of the circle. And that family vibe is very, very important, and like you said, coming over for dinners, doing barbecues, a lot of chapters will have, a certain day a week or certain day a month where they all get together and barbecue with the old ladies, or they all go out together. But integrating that into the regular schedule is definitely pivotal, I think.
Yeah, no, I really believe even if it's a day for the ladies to go do something, the guys go stay with the kids and all hang out together. I kind of believe in kind of sharing all the insides of non-politics, but of actually the real brotherhood with everybody.
Right.
And so people can see that. I mean, the whole thing is like when you see even a hang around or someone sees that, they want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, go ahead.
Well, say that brings up something that I've been preaching about for years is the way you present yourself is how you're going to attract new members. So, I've always personally been against actively recruiting. Like I've never asked anyone to join my club or that type of stuff, and nothing against clubs that do, but that wasn't my program. But the way I looked at it is the way we're presenting ourselves in public is what's going to make people interested and want to hang out. And that was a big shift and a big change that I did in some of my regions. Instead of, when I first joined the club under different leadership, they had game face everywhere, and it was sunglasses in the bar, straight faced, puffed up, and I tried to find that balance, or we did find that balance of heavy security, so that we still people looked like, hey, I don't want to go mess with them. But my goal was always this: when we got to a new spot we haven't been, they'd go, oh shit, such and such is here, and then we left them say, man, they were the greatest guys. They're always welcome back here. So finding that balance of like being polite, respectful, and welcomed, with also, hey, don't mess with those guys, and I think that's really hard, especially for new members or people that maybe didn't come from neighborhood stuff, or what I mean? It just depends. But a lot of those guys, when they first get that patch, go straight to that tough guy. Hey, don't touch me. Don't touch my patch. And then you're bar fighting all the time. And how many times do we see, all this, oh man, we're getting discriminated against. We're not allowed in the bar. But then you find out what happened. It's because they're picking on civilians or not. A lot of people don't know our rules, but we can't hold them to our standards. So some people don't know it's not okay to touch your patch. So if you don't, I would say, hey man, respectfully, I'd explain it to them. And if they did it again, then that's different. But if they don't know, we've got to find this balance so that we can be welcomed back, so that bikers and clubs, especially, we keep feeding into this no patch policy because we're out here starting shit, essentially,
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head, because I've been with a certain club chapter in Florida, and they invited me out. I went out to this, it was, I think, kind of a hot wing place. And they came in pretty deep, right? They came in the place. Everybody had a good time, just talking, chatting. Some civilians walked up and go, hey, I asking about the club. And I saw you guys, that club on TV. And everybody was very respectful. At the end of the night, when everybody left, the waitress and the manager was so kind of shocked. and they told everybody, "Thank you very much. You guys were a pleasure. You guys are all welcome back." And you can tell that they were expecting something bad, but it was kind of reversed. People actually spent money. People had a good time, respectful, opening doors for civilians.
Right.
And that's what it's about when people can ask you to come back, because one, you made them business. Two, everybody was actually happy. Then there's civilians that actually now can, there's kids there. So the kids probably will look up to these guys more than fear.
Right.
I'd rather have respect than fear.
I agree. And it goes a lot longer. You know, it lasts longer. So, you know, next thing you know, your club, your chapter is trying to put together a party and you want to know where to host it. Or, hey, here's another thing people don't think about. A lot of these people end up on the jury somewhere, right? So if you're you're out being a prick and a bully.
I never really think about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's factual though, right? I mean, you know, I sat and got judged by a jury, and some of the juries that they sent out when they were trying to decide who can sit were like, oh yeah, bikers helped my old man fix a flat tire when he was a truck driver. You know, it was all positive stuff. That goes a long way. That more people will talk about that and help you out with that than, oh yeah, those guys came in here and they looked so scary, they didn't talk to anyone and made everyone uncomfortable. Nobody wanted them here. Because I don't know, but I don't like showing up to places where I don't feel welcome. It's not enjoyable for me. I'm not going to have a good night.
It's just like, yeah. I mean, when once you walk in and it's all tensed up and everything, and then everybody's so quiet. I mean, I'm not going to have fun there. I want to be like, if no one knows that we're there, regards, like we're just like anybody else. Of course, you're going to be kind of little cast shadow, but I actually like when people approach, and then you talk to them, because I like kind of dispelling that tough guy attitude, or walking through the bar and bumping into a guy to see what his reaction is. I mean, I'd still do. I respect everybody in the same way. I move out of the way, if you know, just open the doors for people, and it goes like a long way, like you said, stopping for a flat tire, especially as a club at a chapter. If the whole group stops by when there's a flat tire in a car or truck, or that, probably they'll be telling that story for a long time.
Yep. And that goes against what everyone's seeing on TV and everything else. That's more important to me than people just arguing the media myth online or you know, just speaking out. But the actual actions, the behaviors that back it up, that stuff has a way longer lasting effect for sure.
And that goes to the independent bikers out there too, man. Because I see a lot of guys sometimes on social media, and Facebook, and comments like, oh, talking shit about people that do not stop. And then when I'm out there riding, and then I see a guy stopped, I stop, and there's bikers just passing by. So many bikers passing by, not stopping. I'm like, these are probably the same guys that say stuff on social media that they'll be stopping right away, but then they don't want to turn around because it's their time. But that's what, like, the best time, like when you went riding and you have no end in regard of, there's not a time limit. It's not a race.
Yep.
One of my good friends told me it's the journey, not the destination. Most memories are made on that trip, not to the end point, but on the trip.
Oh, for sure. The best stories I have, whether it was from like touring with the band or being in club stuff, is the road stories. And it's usually the times at the time they see terrible, right? Oh man, it was raining the whole time, or terrible winds, or, you know, we were all suffering, but we were doing it together. Usually there's a bunch of good, funny stories that come out of that brought everyone tighter. And, you know, when the newer members come in, where it's like, oh yeah, well, me and so-and-so, man, you wouldn't believe it, but we did this, or, you know, on this one trip, we were doing that. And that, it goes back to that kind of that family vibe and just bringing everybody back together, that whole investment in the chapter, or, you know, in the club.
Yeah. And I believe in karma too. I mean, my old lady, she preaches about karma. Trust me. She's the type, we went to a gas station to fuel up. Someone kind of messed up and left like $20 still to put. She didn't let me put it, of course. She said, no, that'll be karma. So she gave it to someone else and told them to come in and, you know, fuel it up. And she was trying to make sure the person wasn't there. And I believe in karma. I believe in the same thing. I don't care who's on the side of the road. I'll stop by, ask, even if I go out of my way, it slows me down. That's the whole point about the whole, like, even brotherhood can go outside of a club. Even for independent bikers. The problem about the independent bikers, a lot of them are used to being independent. They're not used to understanding groups that you're kind of closer to. Even when they go on those rides on the weekend, they just usually meet up with someone they never met and they ride. Like, you know, of course they ride staggered. I wouldn't ride side by side with those guys. And I'm used to riding side by side. But what's another probably kind of point that you think a chapter should focus on and maybe in the near future change? Like, what would set that off? Or
Your mic cut out again.
Oh, that sucks again.
You're good. But no, so for me, one of the big parts is the way you think about yourself in the club. So not, hey, what is this club doing for me? Because a lot of times we hear that, right? Like, oh, no one was there for me, or, no one's thinking about my schedule. But if you really have that mindset of what can I do for my brothers, it's the same as what can I do for my community? Like you said, fixing flat tires, or someone's leaving get money at the gas station. It's the greater good. Like, how can I participate in the greater good? Not what's everyone doing for me. And that paradigm shift will go a long way in how long and how active you stay in a club, because you're not having expectations from others. Your whole goal is, how can I be a better member? And if you're, if the majority of your chapter have that, or majority of your club have that, you can imagine how positive and how much easier it is to move forward and do good things, versus everyone saying, oh, he didn't come to my birthday party, I'm not going to his. Or that guy didn't stop for me on the side of the road, so I'm never going to stop for anyone on the side of the road. So it's how can I help the bigger picture versus what's everybody doing for me? I think that's a big paradigm shift that goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost the same attitude when I see some guys that are prospects and then members treat them like shit. Then when they become a patch,
Right.
sometimes they start treating them like shit. Or when they have prospects, instead of not doing the same thing, they revert back to the way they were treated. Treating a prospect.
That's a big one, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't write that in my notes. But the way that prospects are treated, because like you said, that it's modeled behavior, it's just human nature, right? And if certain guys were mean to you and you had it rough, then once you got your patch, you're going to feel it's your obligation to make sure other people have it rough, because that's how you had to do it, right? And everyone gets into that mindset. Where me, first of all, I never prospected, so I never felt like I should ever order a prospect around, because I didn't do it. But the other part is that the whole goal of prospecting is to, A, you're learning everybody. Hey, do I fit in? Are these my type of people? We're getting to know you. And then B, you're learning, the history, the protocol, the structure of the club. Nowhere in there does it say you need to get humiliated or treated terribly or be uncomfortable. That to me, that's like fraternity hazing shit. And I don't even know why that's still acceptable in the club world. And I think, like, if any of the programs I was ever involved in or chapters I was involved in was very strict about not messing with prospects. Because here's my thing. At the end of the day, I'd say, okay, what did they learn from that experience? Here you are saying, hey, run over here and grab me these cigarettes. Now I get, they got to do gopher shit, and that's cool. And I'm not arguing that part, but the way you treat them and the way you talk to them, hey, can you grab me water versus, hey, go get me this. People remember that stuff. I remember it. I know who talked to me certain ways. And even if we say we're going to be cool down the road, if I ever had that opportunity, hey, he's out here and he needed help, I might take a little longer time to get there. So it's like, again, thinking like big picture and long term. But at the end of the day with prospects, my question would always be, what did they learn from that interaction? Were they learning something, or were you just being a dick?
Yeah, because I mean, you see a prospect, they can probably be prospect for about a year. But then you want them, as soon as they get that patch and they're so excited, are they excited more about the patch, or are they excited about now they're part of this brotherhood? So, and that's one of the biggest things, because the whole time they're like, F you, F you, F you to the prospect. So now when they are patched, you want the prospect to be like, oh, I love you guys.
Yeah.
You just treated me like shit this whole time. I'm happy because I just got through and got the, this patch. Now they're making it more of earning the patch rather than earning the brotherhood.
You're right. No, that's a good way to look at it. I agree.
And that's one thing. The one thing I always noticed is when I see a lot of prospects and I talk to some guys, they always say, from my past history, they always said something like, as soon as I patch, I'm going to say F you to him, F you to this guy, and whatever. It's almost like that movie, right? Fuck you, you're cool. Right. And that's what I see. So if there's going to be something in like you said, as long as prospects are not getting, I don't mind little prospect games here and there. But I do believe they should be treated not as a brother, but somewhat still.
They should still be treated like men, right? Because listen, here's my other thing. If I'm punking you out as a prospect and you're taking it, why would I want you on my side down the road when things are tough? Like, if you think being treated disrespectfully is acceptable to you, why would I want you to be my brother anyways? So there's two sides to that too, right? Like, yeah, how many people ever say, I ain't gonna prospect, I ain't nobody's bitch? Well, first of all, no one in my club's a bitch, so I can promise you that doesn't happen. But second of all, if people are okay being treated like that, why would I want them in my club anyways?
Yeah.
So
yeah, same thing goes with the way someone talks to your old lady while you're prospecting or something. At the end of the day, you're still a man, and that's your old lady. And I tell people to be careful, because a lot of times women don't belong in the politics of MCs at all. But when someone goes down, guess who's going to be in the hospital? Who's going to be wiping your ass, taking care of you in the future? Your old lady will be. Some brothers might be there, but majority won't. for some chapters that I know. But not to say every club, because like I said, there's thousands of clubs out there and chapters and stuff. So I never speak for the majority, just a few. But people have to realize that at the end of the day, like you said, we're all men, and you want to. Like if I was running a club and someone was, like you said, taking it like no matter what, I mean, I don't know if I would want that person to be a yes man. I don't want a yes man, because then now you have a P in that chapter that just wants yes men, and no one ever is going to challenge anything.
Well, and you brought up a valid point too about, so once you get your patch, holding those grudges, hey, I'm going to say this to that guy. How is that cohesive to brotherhood, right? Yeah. Like I've seen, guys that treat prospects respectfully, and that prospect patches out, they instantly have a tight bond. They would do anything for each other. They're close brothers. Versus that, I'm going to tell him F you, I'm not going to hang out with him. That undermines the whole brotherhood of the whole chapter, which eventually, could lead to undermining it for the whole club. So, and that brings up something that was really kind of a big shock to me as I got more involved in clubs. Is when I first started hanging out with clubs, I came from like the punk rock skinhead scene, so I didn't know much about it. So I just assumed that was the life. So I'm hanging out one day, and I remember looking around thinking, if it wasn't for this club, I have nothing in common with anyone else in this room, right? We don't listen to the same music. We're not in the same act. Like I wouldn't invite so-and-so next to me to go to the movies later or come barbecue. That was a huge moment for me. And I think that is a big takeaway as far as like programs and bylaws as well, is for a family to be tight, for the brotherhood to be real, we have to have shared interests. And like stuff that I promoted, and this is one of the bylaws that I've changed in all of my regions, that everyone has to work out 3 days a week. And a lot of that is we're working out together. We're going to the gym together. So instead of just the bar time, the only time I see, my brothers at the bar, we're doing something healthy and positive together, whether, end up talking about your old ladies or work days or whatever, but we're having that brotherhood time outside of the bar, outside of the club. It's another shared interest. Same thing with, guys that train or do jujitsu, and you're doing all these other things outside the club together. So then when it comes down to needing each other and being there for each other, we're going to put up with a lot more BS, so to speak, because we have, we're tighter. We have that bond. Like that's the real brother versus I have to be his brother because we wear the same patch.
Correct. No, I mean, that's the big thing. Like you said right there, because majority of guys, sometimes I don't even think know some members. They've been in that club for a while, and sometimes they still don't know that member. Because I know some members keep their private life, like their family and everything, totally away. You never see, like, their old ladies don't want to be a part of it. They're just themselves there. So they're kind of fighting that fight between club and family their whole career in that chapter. But that's what, like you said, brings like a real, like real brothers are not going to love each other all the time, but they're going to defend each other for, till the end.
Right.
And coming up with working out together, jiu-jitsu together, I don't care if they go boxing or go to the movies together.
Yeah, something positive.
It's something positive that they'll remember that. They'll remember that's what the club is for. The club is not technically just to go to Tuesday night at the clubhouse and have a drink, and then maybe the church, and then we go to this bar, and it's the same story every day. Rather than I see you in my private life more, because people live two lives.
Yep.
It should be one life. It should not be a private life. It should be your lifestyle.
I agree. That's what helps the balance too. Like if those two worlds are blending, then you don't have to figure out the balance as much either. Otherwise, if you're separating it, like you're saying. Plus, as far as longevity goes, man, the guys that quit or especially quit quicker are the ones that don't feel tied or obligated to the others. It's like that comes back to what has he done for me? All they're doing is ask, because you're not involved. You don't have those connections. Versus, you and I have been training together and hanging out, but, have these stories from the road together. Now it's not just, hey, I'm going to leave the club, but how could I leave my brother? Those types of things, people will stick out through the hard times because of the connections with each other. But when that's not there, that takes that off the table.
And you said something that, resonated with me in a way, because I made a bad decision regarding a club. Going for the club rather than do they relate to me? Do we have things in common? Right. Other than just riding the bike and wanting to wear that patch? Because there's other clubs that I kind of went away from, but they were a better fit, felt comfortable like family, and made that bad choice in the past.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing I tell people is do not worry about the name of the club, too much about the history, but more of the chap, because the club can be an awesome nation, but that chapter could be a crappy chapter that
For
you're
sure.
around. And it's the people that you're going to be with the most is going to what makes it matter. So if I don't care what the club is, but if you the guys in that chapter that you're with, if you can bond with them, listen to the same music, hang out. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to have all the same likes, but at least respect you. Because I've been around chapters of guys like, I'm Cuban and stuff. If I play Spanish music, I don't want to hear some racist shit behind me telling me to turn them shit off. We can laugh about it, then they can laugh about it a little bit,
But if it's the majority, you're not going to feel involved because now you're going to feel like you're the outs. And I talked about this a little bit on my social media and stuff. But so, about 16 or 17 years ago is when I started riding around with clubs, and I hung around and prospected for one for a hot second. And then I joined another one, and then I ended up joining the Mongols. So, on paper, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's been on 3 clubs, but it was finding the right fit, finding that family. And you know what, when I found that third club, I was in for almost 15 years, so it wasn't like out hopping around. It was fine. Like you were saying, that kind of young, naive, you don't know a bunch about the world. So you just want the patch, and maybe in your town, such and such club's the big name there. So you just want to be in that club. Right. But once you age and go through it, and you realize, hey, I don't have anything in common with these guys, then I think you're really missing the big picture of the actual brotherhood that comes with being in a motorcycle club, that actually being a member and not wearing the patch. And you have to have that buy-in. You have to be invested in what you're doing and proud of it, and call everyone brother and mean it, versus, oh, I'm doing this because I want to be in a club. Those are 2 totally different things.
or trying to make your 5-year or trying to make your 10-year, and you're just like, there's a difference between a club hopper and someone that is trying to find their way. And people do make mistakes. Clubs make mistakes. People trying to prospect make mistakes. But at least it doesn't mean, I don't care if people say, oh, but as long as you're moving up. No, it's finding the proper fit. I see if someone is just bouncing around just because they like the nice, newest, shiniest thing.
Right.
That's a whole different story. Or just going for fame or name. But people do make mistakes until you find the proper club for yourself or the best match. That's what really matters. But you don't need a name on a patch on your cut. You don't need.
No, I agree.
The whole point of it is, like, what you always kind of been preaching, I saw on your Instagram, is mostly, what do you call it? You say kind of ride, I forgot.
Our lift, train, ride movement.
There you go. Lift, train.
And even with that, to touch on that a little bit, is, a lot of those guys were guys that I was in a club with. Some aren't, but it's the focus on the brotherhood. Like, we don't need the patch or to claim an area. But we follow a lot of those same bylaws we've been talking about today. We're working out together. Stuff we haven't touched on yet, but like I've always had in all of my regions a no meth policy. When I was really new in the club stuff, I tried to do like, oh, no drugs at all. But then I just found out people are going to, not be honest with you, and you're setting yourself up being lied to. But really, again, I want to look at it and say, I think we've had this conversation before, but when I first started coming around clubs, and the old adage was, you join this club, it's death or jail, right? If you join our club, how many you hear old school members telling you guys, if you join, you're going to lose your old lady, you're going to lose your job. And all I've ever thought is, why would I want to call you brother and put that on you? Or if you and I have been friends, why would I ever ask to bring you into that, right? So that shift of making it a positive thing. I always want to say, when someone joined the club I was in, they said, man, this changed my life for the better, not, oh, everything was downhill since then. Because I used to have a lot of people, hey, man, my wife left me. Things are falling apart. I think it's time I join your club. Nah, dude, like, wait till you have it all together and you're doing well before you come to me. Because all that would mean is once your life's back on track, you're probably going to bounce on us, right? But, I want it to be that thing where it's a positive influence. So you may not like the working out rule right away, but I know you will later, because I always told everyone, tell me what's the downfall? What's the negative? Why can't you work out or do something healthy or train? And the same with the no meth thing, dude. Like, hey, if you want to party on the weekends, cool. But we all know, anyone that's had experience, how that drug will treat you. And, a lot of clubs over the years shifted to, no injectables, whatever. And I'm like, that's not club business. Everyone knows it. It's all over the internet. But why not go that step of, okay, here's this other drug that's just ruining lives. Why am I going to allow that to ruin my group either? Or, the club I came from, what was really cool is they actually had a whole chapter of clean and sober guys that ran a substance abuse center. So instead of just saying, hey, you're breaking the rules, you're doing this drug that we don't allow, you want to help, be there, help them have those interventions, help them get to rehab, help clean up, be the brother. But on the flip, if they're going to choose drugs over you, then what do you think they're going to do in a jail cell or in a court case or anything else? So, to me, that was probably the most controversial rule we'd have in our regions, just from the old school, aspect. But I also think it was probably the most positive.
Yeah, just to know history with the people that were on meth, like you said, will be the first ones that they'll be targeted by law enforcement, and those guys will give up anything for meth. They'll hang the carrot for them.
Yep.
They'll steal from brothers. I seen that before, and that's like a huge thing. And I stayed one of the clubs that I hung around for a long time. That's what kept me away, but they were awesome in every other aspect.
Yeah. And I've seen that a lot, but it's different where, hey, we're going to interact together versus we're going to call this a brotherhood and a family. We're going to live together. Right. So, if it's a club I hang out with or a chapter I hang out with, I don't care what they do. But if it's in my circle and something we're dealing with, then I don't want to see my brothers go down that road, because it does affect everybody else. That.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, so let's say you do have a brother and that we have that no meth, and suddenly you guys see he went to a slippery slope, rabbit hole, and one of your brothers is on that track. Do you guys try to kick him out, or since he was a brother, do you try to get him help?
Yeah, we definitely try to help, man. We start out with the intervention or the talk, or a lot of times it's a one-on-one talk, so you're not feeling targeted or attacked. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know this about my history, but I started, I'm a mental health therapist, and I started out in drug and alcohol counseling. So I have some experience with that in general anyways. So a lot of times I'll reach out to the brother, or if we've got a guy, we got older members that have gone through NA and AA. So, try and find that strength, find the brother in the circle that can help, and have those conversations and really say, hey, we want what's best for you. Here's what we see, what's going on. But the only time someone would get kicked out over violating that rule is if they're repeatedly doing it. Now they're no longer accepting help. They stop showing up to church. They're not paying their dues. Then, okay, this probably isn't going to work out. But it wouldn't be, how can I call you my brother if the minute you slipped up, I send you down the road?
Yeah, that's why I asked you, because the only reason why obviously I know, but a lot of guys in the comment section will say a remark like, you guys call yourself a brotherhood, but then you guys drop someone really quick. And majority of the time, it's not quick. It's not like a last minute, like, oh shit, we just found out there, blinders on. Usually it's been a long process.
For
and
sure.
It's just that we don't talk about all the ins and outs on it, but it's just like a regular family or like a regular brother. You don't bring it out to the public or anything, but then you just take care of it. After so much, there's only so much you can do. Or they're going to they're going to tear you, divide and conquer.
Yep.
They're going to divide and conquer a chapter, turn people on each other.
It's all negative. If we're sitting down and we're saying what's helping this nation or this club or this chapter versus what's hurting it, why wouldn't we make rules against the things that hurt it?
Oh no, guaranteed.
It's helping everybody in the long run.
Yeah. What else is part of that movement that other clubs can probably use, or other groups? Like you said, it doesn't have to be a real name club. There's guys that stay together, ride together. I know I ride with my boy Cowboy every fucking day. So what would you tell another group that wants to start out? What will be I'm trying to come up with something that guys, because I know from old school to new school, there's a divide. And in order for people to move along and move forward, there has to be a mesh. And what would that mesh look like? And I think it looks exactly what we were talking about and what you're promoting. And I'm just trying to there's more than just one little thing. It's so many things involved. It's like a spider web.
I think we got to look at the rules and say, why do we have these? Is it just because it's tradition? Because everyone needs to know the tradition of their club, the history of their club. But we can't have a rule that's outdated and isn't doing anything right. And on the flip side, when things change or whatever, like implementing everyone working out or whatever, so maybe that's a new rule, but it's because it's for the greater good. So we really have to sit down and say, how is this going to help the group as a whole? How is this helping the family, the big picture? Versus, like we said, the way you treat prospects, all that stuff. A really big one for me when I was coming around clubs, because I came up in the punk rock skinhead world. And if you got in trouble, it was a skinhead gang. And if you got in trouble, you didn't get fined or disciplined. You got beat up, right? And everyone say, oh, brothers fight, we get a beer afterwards. But I'll tell you from experience, it was never cool, right? Every time I will shake hands and have a beer afterwards, but in the back of my mind or their mind, I know there was always resentment. So, that was a big thing for me coming into clubs, and the club I joined had this rule too, but I was very strict on his brothers don't put hands on brothers. There's nothing two brothers can't sit down and talk about. Now, I will say the caveat to that is we're all grown men, right? So you can't use that as a shield. You're not going to come up and blatantly disrespect me and say, yeah, but we're not allowed to hit each other. But just making it not acceptable. It's not something that's common. The few times it does happen, it's behind closed doors type of deal versus just that whole bully mentality. And that goes back to that, feeling apart and feeling the brotherhood. But, if you got a couple tough dudes that just walk around doing whatever they want because they can beat you up, how is that leadership? How is that brotherhood? And on top of that, how many times have you had long discussions with brothers when you're not agreeing with each other, and how much tighter you've been afterwards because you actually sat down and talked it out with them versus we punch each other in the eye and have a beer and forget about it.
Yeah, no, I've been in that past with that old, let's put $100 on the table. Whoever wins gets the money, but we buy each other drinks. And I was on the better end of that part. But that same person, a year later, during a little scuffle, try to swing at me and try to blame someone, someone else. Literally. Luckily, the guy was like kind of a little too wasted. Everybody saw it happen too, so I was like, okay, good. It wasn't just me that noticed that. So
right, and a lot of clubs have issues with other clubs or neighborhoods or whatever, and we got to be able to rely on each other and depend on each other. And I know, like, hey, if me and you were at the bar and we're in the same club, I want to know that no matter what, outnumbered or not, we're going to go back to back and have each other's back. But what if I turn around and you're not there because you're mad that I hit you 6 months ago? You know what I mean? It's that same thing. Like it makes it hard to count on each other when there's these things that pop up and get in the way of brotherhood.
Well, and this is the honest truth, right? A lot of guys, especially bikers, guys and MCs, seem like everybody swears they're like the best fighter in the world.
Right.
The best fighter. They're not humble or shit. They're pride. They're so prideful. And these guys barely can walk or barely can breathe. And they just swear. And those are the ones that kind of start shit with people and get their ass kicked at a bar, then call you to come help.
Yeah, you're backing them up.
But I think, not to say people should be joining jiu-jitsu or something. I mean, that will humble the shit out of you.
I agree. I agree. A big thing for me too, and I guess this is just club life in general, but like I said, I probably lost more fights than I've won, but I grew up fighting and I was in that scene. But when I joined a club and I started thinking big picture, like my actions had consequences for people other than me, that actually had me fighting less. It had me rethink bar fights and stuff like that because I had to represent my patch and my brothers. And it actually helped me grow up and stop getting it. I mean, it made me humble, but B, it really just made me think big picture, and it really stopped getting in trouble. So, some people say, oh, I joined this club, now I'm getting in trouble all the time. If you do it the right way, you should be staying out of trouble because of it.
Yeah. Well, I know a lifer from a big club that he was like, when he came out of prison, and then he joined, like he hung around, joined the club, he's never been in trouble ever since.
Yep. And that's the positive. That's what loops back to what we were saying when they say, hey, I joined that club and it made my life better. Not, oh, I went in that club and everything was downhill after that.
Well, it's like Colin right now. Colin just said, and fighting at the top of, at the drop of a hat makes these colors look bad. And it's so true. You have guys that hate the word, motorcycle gang, and then stop fucking acting like one.
You're right.
Seriously.
The confidence piece. And you can see this as an individual or as a club. Like we were saying before, if you're that guy that's in the bar that's nice, respectful, people still know not to mess with you, but you don't have to push it. You're not puffy chested. The same that goes for clubs, right? If you're in there as a whole chapter as a club and you're being nice and respectful and not who I am, who you're messing with, it's the confidence, and people that know what they're looking for. I fear confident people way more than the puffy chested pricks, right? And the same thing goes for big groups or the collective group of the club too. So that also falls on leadership and bylaws on how we're acting in public, because that cuts out a lot of that bar fighting stuff.
I mean, and there's been times that seriously, I was at a bar, drunk guy it's always this drunk, one of the drunk guys that walks up to the group of us, and because his girlfriends are there, or his girlfriend and the friends are there, and they're trying to act tough. And there's been many times I just said, hey, put my hands up, kind of smiled, give a little wink to his old lady or something, and let them think that, okay, kind of not scared us, but we're like, okay, have a good day. I see the cameras at the bar. I see people with their phones out. I'm not going to be an idiot and put everybody else down for just something that you can walk away from.
Exactly.
There's times that you're going to have to step up. And like I said, when I was younger, I used to fight a lot. I didn't mess around with drinking or drugs or anything. I stayed away from that, but I fought all the time.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not like you're going to win every fight, but I don't care if I get my ass kicked. I really don't.
Right.
And you learn that in jiu-jitsu too. It's like you're going to get your ass kicked. But the whole point is to be smart about who's around you, who you're going to bring into this. Just like the bikers now, they have the old ladies in the back of their bikes. They did something foolish. They leave. She gets shot because they're aiming at you or something, or run you off on the bike. Now you just killed someone that was innocent, or people at a bar that are around you. You know, just there has to be a time to think about things and be smart.
I agree. And that, I mean, even that is a bylaw. Like we wouldn't bring old ladies to something if there's potentials for issues, or if there was maybe a club we don't get along with, maybe showing up, then old ladies don't come. So, I mean, there's having that. I mean, I would say that the biggest thing about bylaws in the club I was in was actually security related stuff, you know, because, and here, I'll put this to the bar fight thing too. The way we're perceived can actually de-escalate more situations than escalate, because you already know, like when we go to the bars, you're wearing a patch, you're a target, right? That the drunk tough guy wants to run his mouth or whatever. But if we're out in a way where we're still hanging out and we're having fun, but our security is on point, people are always looking out, you know, go to bathrooms in twos, all the basics that everyone probably knows. But if we are visibly showing that security and that structure, less people will even want to mess with you, because anyone's intelligent can look at that and say, oh, that's not going to be an easy one, right? So to me, that, especially because, you know, I've helped start chapters in a lot of states we weren't necessarily welcome right away, but that helped a ton, because we just showed people, like, listen, here's how we always are when we're out, and we're going to be a lot harder to attack. So you can still go out and have fun, but you're running a security smart program that's really actually de-escalating situations.
Yeah, no, guaranteed. I mean, and that's when they tell when, you know, prospecting, right? It's like, you know, they should know just about every patch there, work cameras, doors, exits, anything. And there's always a point of security, but the whole thing is, it's just like, you know, I fly planes and never going to happen. But you want to be prepared that it's second nature if something does. But the whole point of the motorcycle club is to have fun.
Yep.
Really. That's it. You know, ride your motorcycles, have fun with the people that you love, meet new people, introduce them to the scene, have them love the scene, because, you know, they're the ones that are going to donate things to our, like, events. Those are the ones that we want to invite at these family outings, maybe just to come around. That you never know one day what they're going to do to help you out. And that's one of my other things I think in bylaws is actually to do an event that you really care about as a whole.
Right.
Not to do a toy drive just because it's Christmas and that's what people want to see, and you get your social media guy to post it so you guys look good. If there's always a goal, if something that you actually look forward to, people are actually going to try and do whatever they can to get it done and actually enjoy it. I mean, it's just like Salty was on here. He's a motor vlogger, and I think he started riding club, hopefully defensive animals, right? I love dogs. I always joked around, but I was kind of serious of making a club, almost like, you know, like Baka Babata, Bikers Against Dog Abusers.
I can get behind that. That's awesome.
Stuff like that. I mean, I'll do whatever. I mean, I'll love doing events for anything like that. You know, we do stuff for Pilots and Paws. We go around rescue dogs that, you know, are going to get killed. We fly, pick them up, take them to a forever home. So that a club and a chapter should, more like I'm talking about, chapter of a club, should pick events that they actually care for, that, you know, the members are going to really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to, I mean, everything we've been saying today, just that investment, right? That's me going because I want to be there versus because I'm told I have to be there. And so if it's something you're passionate about, or an organization that you're passionate about, then you're going to want to be there to help versus, oh, I'm told I'm going to this toy run and I'm just going to be here. And that attitude presents itself to all of the public too. We know, you can tell who wants to be there and who doesn't, or like we were saying, the puffy chested dudes or whatever. So really the way you look in public reflects everything that your club does, especially nowadays with the internet and, you know, social media and all that stuff. You know, the mystique of club stuff's gone. So how do you want your club to be perceived by the public? And what I think is kind of a newer way of thinking, or probably a martial arts way of thinking, is that you don't have to be a puffy chested, don't talk to anyone prick for people to think your club's still serious and aren't weak. And to me, like we were saying, I have, man, some of the toughest people I've ever met in club or gang life had a smile and were the nicest dudes. But, you know, because of life experiences, I know who to fear and who not to. But the ones that are all, do you know who I am? Do you know who I'm messing with? That's what's giving everybody a bad name. That's what's going to undermine your chapter. That's going to make so you guys no longer have places to go. You know, oh, hey, every night's at the clubhouse because we can't go to bars. Like, you know, that's what eventually runs people off.
Well, I mean, I always told someone the quietest guy in the back of the crowd is the guy that worries me the most.
Yeah.
It's not the guy that yaps more like a little Pomeranian dog or something. I'm not worried about that guy.
Yeah, if you got to tell me how tough you are, you're probably not that tough.
Yeah, they're trying to scare people with their voices. They're used to growing up in their schools and everything, just acting, puffing, being loud, and people getting scared.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I'm not worried about that guy. I was going to say something, but I can't say.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing about bylaws too, is I don't want to go down that security road for that same reason, right? But I mean, it is still important. It is something that people got to understand, like the way we present ourselves in public actually can de-escalate situations more than escalate situations. You know, it's even if you just look at old school, like predator versus prey, you know, it's the wounded animal in the back that's going to get attacked. But if you guys are all tight and together, you're going to make it a lot harder for anyone to come up and mess with you.
And then Colin said, he says, if you're wearing a state or city bottom rocker, you got to be out to be part of the community. And that's so true. You got to run it like, and that's why there is Robert's Rule of Order. A lot of guys in clubs don't know that's the name of when you have church, right? The Robert's Rules of Order. You got to run it like a CEO. You got to run it sort of like a business too, in a way, when you're starting a business in regard branding. How do you want to brand yourselves? Do you want to brand yourselves in a good light? Do you want to be seen out there? If your logo or your patch is seen everywhere, and people go, I see that patch everywhere, and they see good things, they're not going to be worried about that. You know, that you're branding yourself in a positive light. But when you're just, you know, like literally coming, and nowadays, as we know, I don't know, the reasons for territory is really kind of silly nowadays because it's not like the old days.
Yeah, we can spend a lot of time on that topic. Maybe we'll do that show later.
Yeah. So my whole thing is, there's so many cell phones, so many cameras, and then rather than doing something always positive that people say, oh, they slipped up, it happens, right? People make mistakes. But all you hear in the news is negative things. And I don't know if it's just because I watch biker news or I see, you know, on our channels, people, all these things that happen all the time. I'm like, man, is it getting worse or just because social media is blasting it out there?
Social media for sure, man. For
sure. And I know that's what it is, but still in my head, I'm like, holy crap, people are right. You know, I'm turning 40. I'm 43 this Friday, and I'm like,
your early birthday.
I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going to happen in the future with the lifestyle. I was hoping that there's younger groups that want to join. And that's where the meshing has to come from the old school and new school and actually move forward. But if people are going to take steps back and just destroy, I mean, trust me, in Australia and stuff, if they don't think that can happen here.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is that the United States or ATF actually play a very heavy hand in those Australian rules. They'll try things out in different areas where they don't have constitutions. They kind of get away with a little bit more, but it's almost a testing ground to see if they can do it here. And so you're right. If we're out there doing a bunch of negative stuff all the time, you know, who, just like we said, who can be on your jury one day? Those are the same people that vote, right? So if we're out here and all the public knows is that, you know, this is gang warfare and these gangs are out shooting each other and you're not safe, go to the bar because there's a shootout. Well, what do you think they're going to vote for? Versus, like you said, you know, if you're branding and you've got that image out where the people in your community care about you and like you and respect you, then they're going to vote your way. So it's really like having your community on lock. And I agree with that post, you know, as far as like if you're claiming an area, state, or a city, you need to be active in those areas. But be active in a positive way. Like you said, find a charity or something. And if you're not, man, I'm saying every club needs to do charity stuff. But
no, they don't have to do charity.
But be that guy in the community that's well liked. Be a community member.
Well, and my thing is, but my whole point was, if you're a club that don't give a shit about no charity, then don't do a charity and do it half-assed. Because then people can tell it's a half-assed charity. Literally. Yep. Same thing as if you're trying to run a chapter, don't do it half-assed just to do it to keep the chapter. People feel it, people see it, the rest of the nation know it too. So that's one of the things that what I mean by that is just be, and that goes all to everybody being in the same, you don't have to be all the same walks of life. You're going to have attorneys, doctors. You're going to have people that don't have maybe a job. A lot of clubs require you to have jobs now.
Yeah, and that was a big one that you know, when leadership changed in the club that I was in, that was something that was changed, where everyone had to have visible means of income, so that, you know, law enforcement couldn't say these guys are doing all this different stuff. And I'm known as being a chapter leader before. There may be a guy that I think is a really good dude that might have been a good fit, but what he's doing for a living could give us all a black eye. So we probably wouldn't let that dude join the club, you know. And to even piggyback off that, what if he got out of that and got a job because that's how much he wanted to be in the club? Now we can say, look, this club had a positive impact on another person's life. So it's still that whole snowball of how are we helping everyone not only be a better member, but be a better individual.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not cheap to for all these events and rides, especially if you're in a bigger club that have a lot of chapters all around, and you got to make these rides and trips and stuff, and it's not cheap.
You can't do it without some sort of steady income. There's just no way, you know.
Well, shit, and everybody's riding road glides everywhere now.
Right. Well, and even on that vein, the same thing goes with you know, being a good family member. You know, you're not going to be able to spend that much time away from home if you're in that relationship where your lady doesn't trust you when you go out, or who are you with, or what are you doing. You know, and that goes back to that balance, or like we were saying, everyone being invested, and the old lady's friends with everyone, so she's more confident. But you know, when we bring in new members, I've always looked at it, you know, if they're not coming from a stable family or stable relationship, they're probably not going to be a good brother, because when they're out, she's calling all the time, they're texting, he's not paying attention to security, he's not paying attention to the brothers, you know. And the same goes for jobs. If you can't afford to go on runs, you're not going. So you really have to have your personal life in check before you can be a good member. I mean, and you know, there's going to be downfalls from time to time, but you know what I'm saying as a whole.
Well, and you kind of said it. I mean, I see it a lot of times that you see guys that just get divorced, broken up with, and the first thing to do, they buy the bike they always wanted because their wife didn't let them get a bike, right? Then they want to go join a club, but then when they meet another girl, they kind of start pulling away from the club. Yeah. I love the guys that automatically start bringing their family. I know they're not. Trust me, I made mistakes about bringing old ladies to certain events and stuff like that. But I like them bringing them into the lifestyle around everybody. So people, that's part of their lives. They want to bring their lives in there and mesh everything.
Yeah. And like we were saying before, we can't keep those lives separate. There's obviously some things that need to get kept separate, but the club as a whole can't be 100% separate.
No, it's hard. Or not, you're going to be playing a tug of war, and then you're going to, at a certain point, you're going to make a decision. It could be the wrong one for the long run. And I'm not going to say what the decision, which one is right, club or wife. But, I mean, at the end of the day, who's going to be there for you? And that's what you have to make sure that you understand what you're doing. Because you're going to bring that attitude and negativity back into the club. So, yeah, I mean, I love the little I don't even know what you call what you're doing. What do you want to call what you're doing? It's like
man, it's tough. So on social media, I just started calling it the movement. Because
that's why I was like the movement, but I was like, you know, and it's true though. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and you know, I retired from the club I was in and moved on, but I'm not away from that lifestyle, and so that's kind of where we all bonded. Is we all still wanted to be active and put on miles and ride bikes and be more than just guys that get together and ride from time to time. Because you know, a lot of us, like I said, some of us were even in the same chapter together, so we already had kind of that bond. But on top of that, it's how can we help each other be better people, and in turn, then we're better as a collective. And that's that whole like lift, train, ride, right? Like if you're doing jujitsu or any sort of martial art and you're learning humility and being humble and learning how to take care of yourself, you're likely not going to be the puffy chested guy getting everyone arrested or going to jail. If you're, you know, healthy and you're working out, usually that bleeds into you're eating better, drinking better, partying less. And don't get me wrong, most of us still party, but you know what I'm saying? Like your lifestyle is better that way. And then on top of that, then we're just getting together, riding and going on trips and having a good time. So it's taking a lot of the positives I learned from all my experience in the club world and generalizing it into civilian life, really.
Yeah, one of the things I do know is that nothing positive comes about at 2 a.m. at a bar.
Nope.
Or in the parking lot of a bar.
That actually, so that's a bylaw that we've had for a long time in the Northwest and the Midwest, is that everyone had to leave the bar. Times are different depending on regions and what times bar closed, but no one was allowed to be in the bar when it closed. And it was also when the bar closed, or you know, you leave, you're not hanging around in the parking lot, because you're exactly right. That end of the night drunk crowd standing around outside, that's where you get the who you looking at or whatever. And then, you know, if you've been there drinking all night, you're not making the best choices either. So that's actually a really strict bylaw that we've had for a long time.
Yeah, and that's where I do like the inviting people to the house. I'd rather have people at the house because I know what's going to happen. They're nothing. We're going to have a good time. You know, you maybe get in a little spat with a brother, but that's normal. But when, like you said, going at a bar late at night, plus not only that, just the driving. You know how many guys I know that got hit by drunk drivers on their way home from 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning?
Plus, you're giving law enforcement, opportunity to pull you over for no reason.
Oh, guaranteed.
And that's actually, so that brings up another, I think, important bylaw that we've always had too, is that you can't be intoxicated in your patch. If you want to get like messed up, go to the clubhouse, have a house party. But if you're out representing the club, you can't be stumbling drunk or, spun out or whatever the issue is. You have to hold yourself to those standards where we're still representing and looking well in public. And you're also making good, that way I know you're making good choices. You're still staying security conscious, all those things that come with like what we were just talking about. Because there's plenty of places and times to do that. But one thing I think when I see, there's other times I've seen members of other clubs or our clubs or whatever, where I think it looks soft is when they're just getting shit-faced in their patch.
Yeah.
It goes
it gets sloppy.
It against the structure that most of these clubs have or the security and the toughness and everything else. And it's not a good look.
Right. But then now you put your brother in a situation to trying to get your keys from you. And it's almost sometimes impossible to grab a keys from somebody. People think it's easy, that they're going to knock out their brother, take their keys and stuff like that. It's not the easiest thing.
And what if you don't do that? So now we got a guy in the pack that's risking the whole pack safety. Again, you just want to start thinking big picture. So it's not just what's he going to do to himself, but how is it going to affect everybody else? And that's something, a lot of clubs have now too, but the rule that everyone needs to have a motorcycle endorsement and insurance. How many times I'm an outlaw, I'm a 1%er, I'm doing this, I don't need a license. Well, that's well and good for you. But if you're in the pack with 12, 15 other guys and they run your plate, they're pulling the whole pack over because of you. And now you just put everybody else at risk because you don't have your license or insurance or whatever. So it all comes back to me. It all comes back to big picture. Like, how is this benefiting the group versus an individual?
Yeah. Money Caveman on the comment sections. When is it too old to prospect? I did a video. I mean, I know someone, a guy that was 64 years old prospecting for one of the top big 4 clubs. So it's like Colin said, depends on the club. It depends on them. But I mean, you can prospect as long as you can.
Yeah, I would say it depends on where you personally are at in your life. Like, so, you're older and you're retired and you've got the time to invest and you're healthy that you can be active. Might be a great time to prospect, So it really depends on where you're at in your life. And I think that is more important than age.
Yeah.
Because a lot of clubs have a rule too, that you have to at least be 21 or whatever a lot of the same reasons. Right. And we all known a lot of young members that are joining them. Man, if I did all the stuff I want to do when I was 21 and look back at it now. Right. So, you think people make these lifelong commitments at an early age and finding that balance of when a more appropriate age, I think is going to be better in the long run than just like getting the young guy that's all gung ho.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like riding. When I was younger in my 20s, it's crazy looking back how I survived riding, even driving a car, for God's sakes. Looking now, I mean, when you're riding, I know what people are trying to do. It's like a game of chess. When you're young, I have blinders on. And just same thing at a bar. I mean, I had blinders on and not really, you care what people think, but not much. But now it's as a whole. So, and that's a big thing, but like, that's the perception. Like, I think this guy, Frank said, he says, LE clubs loves to stack cans at the bar and then ride home. My thing is, there's a lot of clubs that do that, a lot of chapters that do that. And then, and you'll see them in the news that whenever there's a bike accident, you see it 2, 3 in the morning. Usually there's alcohol involved.
Yeah, that's the first thing you think.
Yeah, one of the first things. But like you said, if someone's sloppy and then it's just making your rest of your club look bad, no matter who he is, he can be the P of the club in the chapter, and some prospects don't drink, but then there's some prospects that do.
Yeah.
So,
and you should be able to, we should all be able to hang out together regardless, but we have to be able to get along and coexist and respect each other's boundaries versus that's another thing too. I saw early on in the club world is, some clubs are very structured and regimented and the one I was in was, and then some aren't. Right. And I remember going out sometimes and I'd see a guy from one club at a bar and then halfway down the road or another bar, I'd see a guy from the same club out. I saw so-and-so up the street. You go, really? And it always stuck with me. Like, you don't know where your members are, or if you're out and about, why aren't you together? Because for me, it's always been, these are my best friends. My chapter's always been my best friend. So if I'm out hitting the bars, I'm already shooting text, hey, who wants to go? Where are we going? Not, oh yeah, cool, you're going there, I'm going here. And I think that also shows like just the structure and tightness and just the unity of a chapter when they go, like they arrive together, leave together, stick together. And that's usually reflected in bylaws as well.
Yeah, no, Jake Stewart says if clubs have to change so fundamentally that they are nothing like what they used to stand for decades, they're no longer MCs anymore. It's a different game now. My thing is that every decade, every point of life, MCs back then had a different meaning and why they started compared to now. And people that get into clubs now for what's out there, I mean, most people don't need to be part of a club, but there are guys that do. There's guys that need their club. And it's just like anything. If you see like businesses, the ones that survive are the ones that change in time.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I definitely respect the tradition and old school rules of old clubs and where they came from. But also that's a snapshot in the moment of time where they were created and what was going on in culture at that time. If we're not changing culturally or adapting to the times, then you're going to die out. Or like you said, if it's a business, you're going out of business. So, the hardest part I think clubs have right now is finding that balance of tradition and history, but also evolving with the times. Because you know what? Clubs in the 50s and 60s didn't worry about social media, what social media rules were, right? Or how we looked online or the fact that, when people leave and they're out there, telling club business and whatever, all the different things that have with the ease of the internet wasn't an issue in early clubs. So, and if we still are trying to follow those old school ways, then I don't see how any club's going to evolve. I don't think that evolution is a negative thing on clubs, I guess is my point. I don't think it's a death of the culture. In fact, I think that is what's going to help and save the culture.
No, I mean, I think people should have fun with their chapters. And just like, I believe if you're a smaller chapter with maybe 10 guys, every guy every week gets to pick a different restaurant but the restaurant has to be over, like, let's say 15 miles. And everybody, you pick it for the week. And then everybody has to go right out there together. Make it fun that every week is something different and someone gets to pick maybe a place they enjoy. Like, I'll be picking damn barbecue places here in Texas. Go right through the hill country or something, go some barbecue, have fun that way. But I wouldn't really pick just a bar to go drink at. That's a half mile down the road. They want to call themselves bikers, but they barely ride their bikes.
And that goes back to that original comment one of the posters made about, claiming your areas and state, being active in your state or your area. You're not active for just the neighborhood, you're active for the whole area. And I also think, like you're saying, we've said it a bunch, but being invested in what you're doing, if we're always going to the same bar or every time we go out, we're just going to bars, we're really alienating the members that want to do other stuff as well as potential new members. Like, if we're going as a group, like I've met guys that end up being great fits and joining the club because me and another guy are consistently working out at the same spot. And then I meet a guy at the gym that's riding that sees, oh man, look, there's guys that are into what I'm into that ride, versus the members you meet at a bar compared to the members that you're going to meet in that more positive environments. And I don't mean anything against people meeting guys in the bars, but you know what I'm saying? You're only seeing a certain section of people if that's what you're doing all the time.
Oh yeah, no, guaranteed. If I'm not at jiu-jitsu and I see you guys there, I go to the gym, I see the same guys there. I go, man, these guys are always together. They actually look like they like each other.
Yep.
It's going to feed off to somebody to say, hey, I want to be a part of that. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, like, a lot of us like being individuals and we're sometimes introverts. But many of us played sports growing up. I played a lot of team sports. So I kind of like that group of guys. And it's always fun to be around the guys and just be, around the guys. I can do both. And it's always nice to actually find a group that you can go shoot the shit with.
Yeah, if you're that much of an individual, you're probably not considering club life anyways, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
One of the things that attracted all of us to clubs is the brotherhood and having a group of guys to do fun, cool stuff with, I mean, when you bought a bike, club or no club, did you just want to ride by yourself, or did you like, oh, so-and-so else also has a bike, let's see what he's doing, and, hitting up people with those shared interests. And that's
like I said, I love riding by myself, but sometimes I'm like, so it's like you want to share, like sometimes like, damn it, I wish a Cowboy was here or someone who's here, like, they missed out on this awesome ride. Yep. Or even my old lady, we ride a lot. Now I'm being kind of a dick because my old lady's pregnant, so I'm like kind of being more cautious with her in the back. So she's kind of mad at me, kind of limiting her.
you say dick, I say positive, but yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, yeah, no, I'm being positive. Mine is like, sometimes you got to think about the rest of the folks. Like I said, I do things, and I say I don't care what happens to me, but then I care a lot what happens to, like, my old lady, of course, if she's pregnant, my soon-to-be baby, or so that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, but I mean, it still circles back to our whole initial topic of how you're thinking about the bigger picture, the greater good for the group or the collective versus the individual. And that's the whole point of bylaws, right? We don't have bylaws so that we can just be jerks, right? We have rules in place so that the group runs effectively and efficiently. That's it. It's thinking of the group versus yourself.
And it's fair as possible. Like you said, I know chapters that have a P, and they kind of, it's just like the day they have church is more for them to be there.
Right.
You got to pick a day that majority, not just do a Saturday. And now you kill everybody's Saturday for the whole weekend. And maybe they work all the other weekends, and that's the only weekend they have off. And then they go to church, but then they're not with their family or anything, as a collective as a whole, not just because of one person. It has to be like, not just because tradition. That's where tradition is great. But then at the end of the day, everybody has to get together and say, hey, this tradition here, what's the point of this one right here?
Exactly. How is it affecting the group? What's the purpose of it as the group nowadays, up to date at this time?
Right. And if people keep saying that's because it's always been that way, and that's not a good answer.
For sure.
That was my worst thing. If I asked something and say, well, it's always been that way, I'm like, well, that sucks.
Right. Well, and if you look back, clubs, a lot of guys join clubs because they came from the military or they wanted that same tightness they had with guys that they went to war with. Right. So what was bringing people together or forming those battle buddy situation is going through things with somebody else. And if all you're doing is going to the bar, you're not going to establish that type of relationship. But if you're spending miles on the road together, going through the bad weather together, the dangerous situations together, those times where you look at your brother and go, man, I don't know if we were going to get out of there. That's what creates that bond and that brotherhood that'll make you a long time lasting member versus just showing up to fly the patch.
Hey, Mooch, I was going to say, someone's asked, what's your channel? Tell us your channel. Because he was supposed to be streaming this live at the same time. But we had technical difficulties, so he couldn't stream it on his channel. But what's your channel?
Yeah, I think my YouTube name is the Mooch 618. But if you just look up Mondays with Mooch, I try and drop an episode every Monday or every other Monday or whatever. But I'm just starting out. So Mondays with Mooch is going to be the main one, but it's under the Mooch 618. And then I've got Instagram is OG_Mooch, and then there's a lift_train_ride. So lift train ride. That's where I post a lot of the movement stuff. The guys working out, training, doing jiu-jitsu, it's cool stuff like that.
I have been to Pop's Tattoo, Chris. I have been to Pop's. There's a lot of places in Texas to go. But yeah, no. So that's, guys, go to his channel, go hit subscribe, watch his stuff. He's just starting his channel up, so he's learning a little bit. My channel's been out for about a year and a half. My problem is I'm not consistent with it. I started a business, left my career to start a business, and I've been at that for the past 7 months, 8 months or so. So I just been grinding it out. So I'm not really being consistent with this.
Right.
But I still ride all the time. I still meet up with some guys from clubs and stuff. I'm not in a club right now or anything. But I love the lifestyle. I love motorcycles, love the people. I think it's one of the lifestyles that what I love about it is normally you should be. I don't ask what people do for a living. I don't really care, but I love being around a group of guys that they don't judge you for who you are or what you do. They shouldn't.
Right.
And a lot of guys in clubs and bikers normally don't. You always run into guys that do, but that's not the majority.
Right.
And that's what I love about the lifestyle is the acceptance, and they're the first ones to go help somebody. Normally, help somebody or help a cause more than some other people.
For sure. And that's that, even with what we're doing with the lift train ride movement or what you're doing now, it's taking those the positive from all those experiences we got through club life and through anything else, right? I mean, that's life. We go through different experiences and we lock in what's helped and what's been beneficial, and you want to carry that with you. And that's part of that evolution. And whether that's as an individual or as a club, I think that's the important piece.
Thanks, Tattoo Chris. Yeah, no, I found out about the bun in the oven on Father's Day. She surprised me. So we have a 13-year-old, so that daughter. So that was a nice big gap that we had there.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. So I have another little wild.
That's going to be cool, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been at this about an hour, 18 minutes. I know we had a slow start because the technical, I can't even speak, technical difficulties. Drinking this bang drink is getting me a little wide right now.
Yeah, I got to sip it. You can drink the whole one. That's too much.
Yeah, no, it's too late to be drinking that, but I like this taste of it, though. So, yeah, so hopefully we can start. This is a great topic. I really thought about this topic. I might do something to spin off this week with this topic because it's a positive movement for chapters to actually move forward. Just like Colin said there, we can't be acting like assholes out there and want change. We can't be acting like what we don't want to be perceived at. Perception, no matter, even if you're not doing something negative, the perception is out there. It's all about perception of what people are going to believe, what you perceive. So if you can put out the positive vibes and not really care too much about acting or the prideful part of it, that's what really matters. And I think at the end of the day, if people that are the guys that want to join a club and be part of something, you have to understand, don't chase the patch. See, just like say, if you're around Mooch and these guys, find a group that you click with. Yep. That when you talk and hang around with, you actually go, hey, I can see myself writing and talking, inviting these guys over the house. But if you're with these guys and you're hanging out, you're like, there's no way in hell I'm going to invite these guys to my house or to Christmas dinner.
The real simple way to look at it is
over for like dinner.
The real simple way to look at it is, if it wasn't for this patch, what do I have in common with these people? Are these people I would hang out with, patch or no patch? And if the answer is yes, you're going to have super tight brotherhood, and things are going to be off to a great start. But if the only shared interest you have is that patch, you're kind of setting yourself up.
Well, I was going to say, hey, Glam Dolls, are you talking about Jessie on the show? You missed her on the show? Because my old lady, oh my God, you put her on her show. There's been shows that we recorded that we had to take off before YouTube will ban me for about life or something. Yeah. So, but she learned. She thought she can curse and do whatever on here. I was like, no, you can't do what she was doing. But either or. Yeah, so hopefully we're going to do more videos like this. I think we should. Maybe do something like for us on the Sundays itself. I know Hollywood started working on the weekends. That's why we haven't done our show. He's working hard there. I know Danny Dulo's doing his thing. So maybe we can do something ourselves more for a positive spin. Like there's always negativity out there. A lot of sites out there post all the biker news. I'm not about biker news. I'm not about politics. I like getting people to ask questions from our experiences. There's guys in the comment section that have a lot more experience than I do, Paulie. I never think I know everything. I learn something new every day, and that's the whole point of it. The best way to learn is go out there and meet people.
I agree, and that's kind of what brought me into wanting to start doing some more YouTube stuff or stuff on my social media or videos. Is that I have a lot of years of experience doing this, and I don't necessarily feel like club guys are represented well in this scene or this circle. And so, what I like doing is exactly what we did today, keeping politics out of it and the hot topic type of stuff out of it, and really just discussing like, hey, what's club life like, so that all those people that want to know can hear it from people that have lived it and experienced it, without, the drama that goes with it. So,
yeah, with your experience of all your years of the positive parts of it, there's chapters that might be struggling and losing members, and they can maybe see this and see a way to improve their chapter to maybe build a better group of members. And that's the title of this: Improve Your Bylaws, Improve Your Members. So then now that you could actually just push forward. So
yeah, and that's kind of my goal with my YouTube channels and stuff, is just bringing some of my experience to the table to discuss, and like you said, it's not that I think everything I did was right or that I know everything, but it's just open to discussion. And hopefully and I guess I'll say this: I've always been the lead by example type of leader. And I would think when it comes to bylaws or clubs or whatever, the burden always falls on the leadership. And if you want your guys to stay positive and all these things we were talking about, then you've got to lead by example, and really, the actions have to match the words.
Mike Ball, we are going to Chicago. I'm like the only person. Sorry, Mooch, because we're planning something. You're invited now too, Mooch. We're planning a trip with a bunch of us, like Hollywood, I think. Mike Ball, myself. I don't know if Danny Dilo is going to go. Sorry, my head is I can't even think right now. But Demon's Roll. I can't even think of his name. I don't know why I'm going back. So either Sos. There you go. Man, I was like this freaking bang drink. I'm telling you. Sos, and we're all gonna go and meet up in Chicago and go watch a Cubs game. I picked August 6th to watch the Miami Marlins. They don't believe I'm. They don't believe I'm gonna wear my Miami stuff at Wrigley. I don't care if I get my ass kicked.
That'd be a good episode.
Yeah, no, but my whole point, I wanted everybody to kind of get together, videotape our journey there while we're there too, and just have a good time to show that not only, because we can get together like this, but it's nice to actually see people actually meet up and not just talk the talk, but actually walk the walk about things. So,
right.
Yeah, so you're invited now too, Mooch. You and your old lady.
Appreciate it. It's not too far from us.
Well, you don't have to ride. You can fly.
Yeah, no, I said it's not far. It's only like 4 hours for me.
Oh, shit. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so then, that'll be good. So, because there was a house we were trying to get that had, it can sleep like 10 people or more. But then no one answered us, so we're like, shit. So, but we're still going to go, Mike Ball. So I'm going to get on the phone again this week, but it's going to be August 6th, and I'll hit you up, Mooch. All right, guys, so hopefully we're going to do more of these videos, more positive stuff out there. Mooch, any final words?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on, and this is what I'm hoping to do moving forward is have these positive topics and just help out where we can. So if you ever got questions or whatever, drop them in, the comment section, or it's the Mooch618@gmail, and we'll try and cover it on our shows.
Yeah, so guys in the comment section, always feel part of the show. Ask questions, anything stupid, of course, we're not going to answer. Anything normal or something that is interesting, I'm always going to bring up there. And we'll get better with our technical difficulties. Can you speak? I'm serious. You can't speak right now. I see. And Black Dragon has thrown his negative energy to our technical difficulties. All right, guys. Till next week. Much love and respect. Peace.
Thanks, everybody.